Hello again, this is Chris again, and in this video I'm going to show you how to sort out the issues that you may or may not be having, probably are having, with your New Frontier AR-45 as far as having the last round bolt hole open. So, as I had explained in the prior video, I was having a hard time getting the last round bolt open to work because as it came from the factory, it was too long, and I ended up having to come over here. Ended up having to shorten the last round bolt hole open wire, and then after that, it's a series of bending it once it's shortened far enough. When you shorten it, you want it to come down inside the notch on the factory Glock magazine. And when you're adjusting this, I suggest that you use a factory Glock 21 magazine in order to get this correct. You can always go back and change the Korean magazines, and I'm going to show you how I solved that problem as well. But when you insert the magazine, it should the wire should fall into the little slot that's on there. And I'm basically going to show you how to do this. So, as you notice, when I inserted the magazine, it's already up because I have the bolt locked to the rear. But when you put the magazine in, the wire needs to go into the little slot on the front of the magazine. And what that does is that pivots over here and forces the last round bolt hole open ping pong paddle to open. And what I had problems with before was that was too long and it was coming down on top of the magazine, on top of the follower, or on top of the bullets. So after I shortened it to the point where that is, then it was a series of bending, and I'm going to show you how to bend it as well. What was happening was it was trying to continually force this ping pong paddle open, and as a result I was breaking these. And I've since upgraded to this Seekins extra heavy duty bolt hold open, but after that I was still having trouble with it holding the bolt open on the last round. So we'll go into the garage and I'll show you how I fix it. Okay, now we're in the garage and I'm going to show you how I fix this. First thing you need to do is get your AR-45 to this point. You want to remove this and remove the bolt carrier group, okay? And then you're going to close it back up just like normal. You want to make sure that the wire is coming down. You can see the wire in there. I don't know. Anyway, you're gonna, when you're checking this is how you're gonna want to do it when you're checking it. But in between the steps, I'm gonna show you what you need to do in order to make it work. This is just to show you how you're checking, and you're gonna be wanting to check it with a stock factory Glock 21 magazine. That's very important. You want to do it to this standard because you can always increase the standard and change your cheap Korean magazines to make them work, and I got them to work as well. So, with the bolt carrier out, you want the wire pushed down so that when you insert the magazine, the end of the wire is going to go into the little slot that's right here. That's where that wire is going to end up, and that's why you have the bolt and the charging handle removed in order to find that. So as you're doing this, if you need to shorten it, what you need to do is make sure that that wire is coming down, so when you insert the magazine, it's going into that slot and moving the lever on the other side. Now I'm going to show you what you need to do to the wire. Okay, in order to change this wire, what you want to do is, this is a 5/64 Allen head is what these bolts on here are. You're going to come down here and you're going to remove this. If you haven't removed this already, this is how you do it. Just loosen these Allen heads right there. Shouldn't have to tell people how to remove bolts. And then this is going to come off. You can just keep it like that. That's fine. That way it's lined up and ready to go back on. And here's your wire. This is what we're dealing with here. And, okay, first of all, when I first did this wire, it comes out and it curves down. When I first got this, I think they set them up for 9mm instead of the 45 because this upper is used for both. So what I had happening was, let's say that this is in the gun and this was in here as it stood stock. It used to have a little bit more that projected off the end here that was pointing down, and the situation I had was it was coming down right there. Okay, that's no good. And when you have bullets in there, it was actually coming down on top of the bullet. So you were in a situation where not only this was scoring down the side of the bullet, but when there wasn't a bullet there, it was on top of the follower here instead of being in the slot here. It needs to be in the slot here. Otherwise, you're going to keep breaking ping pong paddles left and right constantly. So the first mod that you need to do to this wire for the 45 caliber is you need to shorten this part right here. I took off maybe 1mm, okay? What you want to do, you want to shorten that to the point where it still has a little bit of a curve down, as you can see right there, but you're taking it off the end so that it's not, instead of coming down on top of the bullet or the top of the follower, you want it to come down in the notch where it's supposed to when it's bent properly, okay? Once you have that shortened, and it's going to take trial and error, you're going to probably be pulling this in and out about a dozen times or better in between cutting this, getting it to fit, and then the bending process. But we're going to fast forward ahead. Okay, so now you've removed about 1mm off of there, or just remove just enough to where you can see it still has a little bit of a curve down right there. That's what you want. It was about 1mm, maybe 1.5 mm too long. So I shaved that down, and it's still retaining that little curve down like that. You want the little curve down because otherwise you're going to be bending this far too much, okay? Retain the little elbow of a curve down. Just make it so it just comes down into the pocket. Once you have that done, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to come over here to the vise, and you're going to put this in your vise like this, as close to the end of that as possible when you're bending it. Okay? You can do that. You can have this one upright like that, but you want to get it as close to the end of the bend right here as possible. Then you're going to want to take some narrow vice grips, and instead of putting it on there so you don't screw up your bend, you're going to want to, I should probably have put this in there backwards, but you get the idea. You want to put it in there from the back like that. Once it's clamped on there and locked, and then you want to bend that down, okay? You're bending it down because you've removed a lot of the curve here in order to get it to fit. So you're compensating by bending this one down. That's going to engage in that pocket as much as you can. You want to do that until it just starts to hold the bolt open. This is where you're doing the majority of your bending, but you don't want to go crazy with that. You want to get it to us just barely holding the bolt open. And after that, so you still have the clearance, after you do that, then you're going to put it back in and test it to fit. And you're going to do this, like I said, about a dozen times or better until it'll probably get to the point where it's just barely catching and holding the bolt open, okay? Once you get to that point, then you want to take note of how far this is extended. This part here is sticking out when you push in on it and actually have the ping pong paddle holding the bolt back. You're going to have to use your imagination here. I can't keep putting this thing back and forth together. But what you're going to do is you want to see how far it takes for this wire, the positioning of this end of the wire, before it will hold the bolt open. And you might have better luck than I did. Just by bending the wire on this end, you might get it to hold it open reliably. It's, anybody's guess. But once you get it to where it just barely holds it open, the rest of your bending you're going to want to do at this end. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to bring it back over here. Only this time, you're going to put this end close to it. And the reason you're putting it this glance, so you're not twisting the wire up here, you want to bend it right here on the corner. And you can't do this too many times back and forth because obviously the wire will fatigue and break. But then again, just like before, only this time, since there's no thing there, you can do it from this side. You want to lock these on there, and you want to bend it. And you want to do it, it's all going to be trial and error. You're going to bend that down until you can put this back in, and it's on there, and point where your you know, with your factory magazine, it's holding the bolt reliably to the rear. That means every time, okay? And after that, you want to put a couple of rounds or dummy rounds in to check and make sure that it operates correctly after it's out of bullets. You want to cycle a couple of rounds, and then when it's locked, when the magazine is empty, it will hold the bolt open to the rear when you're done. Okay, we've got the firearm put back together again. Now we have the charging handle and the bolt carrier group back in, and I'm going to demonstrate our results of all of our bending and our trial and error after countless times, it felt like. You want to do this with, again, you want to do it to the standard of the factory Glock 21 magazine. I can't emphasize that enough. These are what this is designed to lock open on, so you want to use this as your basis. You can make changes to the Korean magazines, which I'm going to outline here in a minute. Okay, at this point, got obviously perfect operation, and you want to test this with either dummy rounds or actual bullets to where it'll lock open reliably after the magazine is empty. It'll do it all the time now. And once you've got that where it's reliable with the Glock factory magazine, then you want to try it with your cheap aftermarket high capacity Korean magazines, which I had to do a lot of work to get these things to work right. I ended up having one of these actually hold the bolt open, but this is the result you get normally. And it's holding it there, but only just, okay? Pause it. All right, so once again, the Korean magazine, the follower is slightly different. So what it is the pocket is not quite in the same spot as the Glock magazines are, and that's your main problem. So you can get it in there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, as I can just demonstrate it. See how it's almost doing it, but not quite? And at this point, I don't want to bend the wire any more than I've already have because it's reliably working with regular Glock magazines. So that time it works, but only just. See? So I'll try it in again. And of course it's going to work every time now because I'm doing a video. But anyway, make a long story short, the solution to that problem is since it works fine with Glock magazines and the main difference is the follower, what you do is you replace the crappy Korean follower from these magazines, which is this part right here in case you don't know, with a factory Glock 21 follower. Okay, it doesn't matter that it's a smaller magazine originally or not, but you can see the obvious differences between these two followers. This is also a Korean magazine, but this is one that I've replaced the follower with a factory Glock follower. And when you do that, now it's going to work all the time. This is one that I've already replaced it in, and now it works. And it's solid too. It's not just catching the way it is with that one. Usually that one wouldn't catch at all, but for some reason today it is. But this is the Korean magazine with the stock factory Glock follower. And right here, I have it. I got these from Midway. They're about $3 a piece. So if you're having this problem, once you get it sorted for a stock factory Glock magazine, then you want to get this. This is the part number right here. This is from Glock. That's how it comes. It's 546661. 011420. It's a Glock magazine follower for Glock 21, Glock 21 SF, 30 SF, 40 ACP polymer black. And if you're looking for the description at Midway, which is where I got these, I'm sure you can get them elsewhere too, but this is for the early Glock magazines. This is the one that says it works in all of them, and I'm sure it does, but I looked for the early ones, and this goes right into the Korean magazine. Replace your follower in the Korean magazines with a factory Glock follower, and you shouldn't have any more problems. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the video. If you like it, give it a like, and I hope you have good luck in getting your last round bolt hole open to work with your new Frontier AR-45. Have a good one.